stop here for a moment and just show you. This is an intimate look at the steel drums. Many of you have never had this opportunity, so I'm just going to put these aside. And as Justin mentioned, he's originally from St. Thomas. He grew up playing steel drums since he was a wee tot. And I'm from Oxford, Massachusetts, but I've been playing since about 1991. I've known Justin even before that. So these steel drums, a lot of people, the first question they ask us is, where's the microphone? Where's the amplifier? Where's the Marshall stack? We don't have any of that stuff. As you can see, there's nothing underneath these drums. So they have a natural resonance, especially in a hard room like this. They speak very well. So you kind of have to pull back a little bit on playing. We're trying to get rid of it on. And I have different types, we all have different types of mallets. These drums are actually called double seconds. So for those of you who raised your hand when I asked, have you seen a steel drum band live and you saw the large steel drum? Usually there's several players at the double seconds. There's several players that play the tenor pan, which is just a single pan. They actually have larger pans than these too. They have what we call cello pans and bass pans. Yeah, the cello pans are named because they're on the range of a cello. They have a low C, which is the low, which is what the cello is tuned to.
So if you want to compare them to something that you do know, this is the equivalent of the violin in the symphony orchestra. This is the equivalent of the viola or the piano. It carries the chords. This carries all the melodies. Melodies too. Sometimes they call it the solo second. Because some musicians has a lower range. So this has a much higher range, so the notes are much smaller. Okay? So even these little notes in here are notes. But it's how it's struck. Okay? And like it's how it's struck. And my mallets are much thinner. The rubber is much smaller because my notes are smaller, so I need a thinner rubber to give the effect. The drums produce sound by vibration. The only member of the percussion family that's capable of what we call total orchestration. So you have the symphony orchestra, you have the symphony steel orchestra. And I came from a band of 200 members strong. My section alone, I was the section leader for my section, we had 32 players playing this drum alone. And the double seconds, we had about 20 players playing the double seconds. And the six bass, these used to be full-size 55-gallon oil drums. Okay? And they were cut to different levels.
Yes,
so the full-size bass drums are actual full-size 55-gallon oil drums with three large notes on each drum. And there are 6 of them. Okay? 6 of them.
So these drums all used to start out as 55-gallon oil drums, and then based on the size and type of the drum, they determine from a blueprint, is this going to be a bass, a cello, or a double second tenor, and then they cut it, sometimes they galvanize it. These are both of our pans are chrome, so there's a whole process behind doing this. These are actually very expensive instruments. You can actually make these mallets at home, believe it or not. If you want a great craft project for some of the kids, I know you're like, oh, I can do it. It's actually not too hard. You just take a wooden dowel like this, or maybe a metal like this. You can buy them on eBay, you can buy them on Amazon.
Home Depot. Dowel section.
Dowel section. That's even easier, right? Good point. And tape up the top, and then you take this little hospital tubing. Justin has thinner tubing on his mallets because he plays a higher drum. The larger the drum, the thicker the tubing you need. I'm just going to pass these around. Feel free to take a look at them. I have one that was started, and then I have another one that's finished. So if you want to, I need these back too. But you can pass them around. So that's how mallets started. Yeah. I'm playing with the Justin Petty collection. That's the black ones right here. These are the softest mallets. And then we have the middle range, which are the blue ones, and then I have the red. Like you said, I sometimes play solo. So I play 4 mallets. So when I want to play with the red mallets, I will do something like this, with the reds in the middle. So it's kind of loud because the mallet's a little bit harder. But in this room, I don't want to play so loud, so I play with the much softer black mallet. So there's a whole range of sounds we can play. There's a whole range of volume we can use. And you probably heard Justin a minute ago, as you probably have heard now, we don't just play, calypso and so, but we can also play classical music. And there's actually full steel orchestras that do play full symphonies, Beethoven, Mozart. They actually have those in the islands and also in Canada.
You can go on YouTube and ask classical steel. Just Google search for classical steel drum music, and then You do anything on YouTube nowadays. You can actually see me perform. When I was younger, much younger, I don't do it now. I used to play upside down. There was a trick that I learned, and I would be playing on top, and as a trick I would lay on my back and play the drums upside down. And if you search for my name, Justin Petty, it should come up. Or Rising Stars featuring Justin Petty on YouTube, it should come up. And you'll see me back in the day at Lincoln Center, Alice Cully Hall, playing with a large band, the band that I told you about. And I'm going to do a trick where I play upside down. So you can see that on YouTube right now.
Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to? Yes, you have a question. You have to talk loud.
Kind of a comment. My friends, well, I have two friends, they're from Chinese, and they brought drums like that, but tinier. We got to play in our class.
The small ones about this big?
Yeah.
Beware of the tiny ones. Those are like souvenirs.
She can play on
And beware of trying to buy a steel drum online, because you might not get what you were looking for.
You might not get something good.
Or the quality. This is like considered in the steel band world a Stradivari. It is. It was made by one of the greatest steel can makers in the world. He passed about 2 years ago, and I was fortunate to get him to retune my drum in September, a couple months before he passed. So I'm trying to not play too hard, because I don't know who will be the next person to tune it. I'm very touchy about anyone tuning my drum.
So in case you're curious about price, I've seen these range wholesale from anywhere from $800 up to $2,500. And then $2,500 would be these types of recording quality.
They're actually selling this online for about $4,000. I wouldn't recommend that you buy one. If you're looking for a drum and you know someone that knows someone in Trinidad, you can get this drum for about maybe $800 in Trinidad, and it will be a much better quality drum than if you were to buy it online.
Any other questions? Somebody has a question? You do? Go ahead, bud. You don't? You just want to raise your hand? Go ahead.
At my school, we saw how to make them, like, some were used, like, from trash cans or something, like, first they, like, took off, like, part of it, then they burnt it, and then they were able to, like, push it in and shape it.
Hey, you want to get paid or what? She's correct. She's correct. That's how the drum was made.
Repeat the question, please.
Huh?
Repeat the question.
It wasn't really a question. She was just explaining to us how, she said at her school, she learned how it was made. How it was made. This issue came about by accident.
There's a great history
It
behind
was, I'll give you the short version of it. But a gentleman by the name of Winston Simon, his nickname was Spree, so they used to call him Winston Spree Simon. And if you know anyone in Trinidad, everybody has a nickname. So he was given credit as the one to have come up with the idea of the steel drum. But there's a lot of other people back in those days, because they were all friends, that laid claim to it. The thing is, they were all around at the same time when it happened. But it came about by an accident. And he wanted to go and celebrate in the street with his friends. And he didn't have an instrument to play. So like the young lady said, he took his mother's wash pan that she filled with water. Because back in the islands, sometimes the water stopped running. And you have to have some water saved up just in case you need to bathe, wash the dishes, whatever. And he asked her to use it, and she told him no. So when she turned away, he did what any normal kid would do. He poured the water out, and he took the wash pan, and he took a stick, and he held it up, and he was hitting it like a bass drum. So imagine the flat side being struck for a long time. So he got tired, and he didn't want to lose that bass sound in the band. So he gave it to one of his other friends named Bartholomew, who was a big guy. And Bartholomew started to strike it and keep a bass sound, just like a marching band. And at the end of the night, when it was time for Winston Spree to go home, he went looking for his friend. And when his friend gave him back the wash pan, the flat side was no longer flat, it was concave. So it came out, like I said, it was a big dent, and it was a huge. And he was like, hey, what happened? He said, you told me to play. So in his haste to reverse the process to make this area flat, he started to strike it. And the more he struck it from the other side, he heard, and by the way, this is the original way the steel drum was played. The steel drum was played. The steel drum was played this way at first. Okay, you might see on YouTube they have some video where people playing with their hands, a kind of instrument that's similar. Well, that's how the steel drum is played. So this is a no-no, by the way, because this is the most sensitive part of the drum. It's called the belly. So he started to strike it, and I'm gonna do this here for demonstration purposes. But he started to hit it.
Try this at home.
And the more he struck it, he heard different. He made different indentations, and they all produced a different sound. So he was able to make about 3 different indentations, and he was able to play this here. They said this was the first song to have been played.
See if you can guess this song. Raise your hand when you know the song. What was that song? Yeah. Raise your hand. Keep your hands up.
So
what song was that? Do you know?
Little Lamb.
Yes, very good.
it was when, I want to think it was Aristotle when he solved the 47 problem of Euclid, and he said, Eureka! You solved it, right? He realized that he created something. So he put some holes on each end, and he put a rope, and he put it over his neck. And the first way steel drum was played with one stick. And it was actually, there was no rubber. It was just played with the stick. And they call it pan round the neck. To this day, there are still some bands. Those are the non-conventional steel bands. They call pan round the neck. And they have competitions where everybody, they come on stage and they holding the drum around their neck, but they're playing it this way now, because modern day, some genius realized that the pitch sounds more richer from this side. And they learn to control the side. So they played it from this side. Now they put the strap on this here, and they carry it like this here. They play with 2 hands while it's around the neck. So that's called pan around the neck. But in order to make the drum, you have to take this, because it's metal, you have to make the metal soft. So the drum is cut. Okay, it's cut. But the first thing they do is they take a sledgehammer on the flat part. They do what Winston's Free Simon and did. They make it flat. I mean, or concave. They just hammer in a circular motion with a sledgehammer until it comes concave. If you look closely, you'll see that my drum burst. But it's still one of the best made drums in the world. But when they burst it, they stopped and they welded it. Okay? But it burst in an area where the notes aren't affected. So it was good.
We got lucky.
You know?
Do we have a question here?
What noise is the steel drum made?
Very good question. There's a big uncertainty, but it was invented between the world wars, 1930 to 1945. Why? Because America used to bring their naval ships and stuff there and dump a lot of the oil,
Which was
barrels,
ships.
right there in Trinidad.
Yeah.
After a while, the biscuit pan was too thin, or the wash pan, they realized that the oil drums were stronger metal. And Trinidad is very rich in oil. They have a big naturally occurring area called the Pitch Lake, okay, that produces tar, and they pull the oil out of that every day. And as the more they pull out, it fills back up. Okay? It's called Pitch Lake in La Brea, Trinidad. So they used the drums that were discarded after the United States military left to make the drums. That was a good question.
Do we have any other questions? Are we enjoying it so far?
Yeah.
Good? Okay, we're going to...
Except,
Some of us are enjoying it. We're going to play one more song, and then we're going to take a quick break. You're welcome to come up, get some steak, get some lemonade, and we'll be back after that. This is almost like a jazz called Dance Class. It's written by a very famous jazz musician. His name is Andy Norell. He's a piano player. He lives in New York City, and he's world famous. what we call pan jazz. And we're going to play this song for you. We've been playing this for quite a while, and we love it. So we hope you like it too. It's called Dance Class.
I came to your concert.
With jazz and calypso.